Hello everyone, it has been a bit, but as you know, I just film whenever I'm in the mood to, and I realize that it has been an entire year since I filmed a book haul, so this might be a little bit lengthy. I also apologize if you can hear the highway in the background, but they have not turned on the AC yet, and if I shut the window, I'll start sweating. I also wanted to say that before I get into the books that I own now, I wanted to say that when I filmed my books I want to read in 2021, which a lot of those are featured here, and I have them, I got quite a few comments letting me know why had I not talked about the new You book by Kepnes coming out, and that is You Love Me, the third book in the series. To be honest, I forgot it was coming out. But I did want to mention here that although I do not own it yet, I am going to be picking up a copy and of course we'll be reviewing it. It says that this takes place in a cozy island in the Pacific Northwest. Joe gets a job at a local library and he tells himself, I'm not going to get obsessed with a woman, I'm not going to get obsessed with a woman. And then he gets obsessed, of course, with someone named Mary Kay DeMarco, who is the librarian. I have reviews of both You and Hidden Bodies. You, as you guys know, is one of my favorite thrillers of all time, 5 out of 5 stars. Hidden Bodies, on the other hand, was a little bit of a letdown for me. It was still enjoyable. I love her writing, but I think I ended up giving that 3.5 out of 5 stars, and to be blunt, I have no memory of that book. Especially now that I've seen the TV show, it's hard for my brain to dissect what happened in this season 2 of the show versus what happened in Hidden Bodies. I might have to go read a recap before I check this out. I don't have marked down the exact release date, but this did just come out pretty recently, so it's already out and available to pick up. Next, I am so excited about this because, oops, I'm worried my whole lighting setup's gonna fall when I move this. So I'm not gonna show that part because it shows my address, but I have a package here. And as you guys know, even though I'm sent books sometimes, it's really rare, just because I think I don't post it very often, that I'm sent brand new releases. And you know, when you see booktubers unboxing those big unboxings with all of the kind of like marketing around a new release and things like that. But I was sent the copy of My Heart is a Chainsaw, which you guys, I mentioned in my 2021 books I'm excited to read about. And I didn't ask if it was okay for me to say her name, so I won't say the name of the lovely woman, but she actually is a subscriber and she sent me the book and a ton of other marketing stuff around the show. I haven't looked through it yet. I opened it and saw there was a bunch of stuff inside this, so I figured I would wait to open it on camera, but I just want to say a huge thank you to you. This was so exciting, and I'll be honest, it was a really terrible week emotionally. It's just been a bit rough lately, and this just really brightened my day. So here is the book. Oh, wait a second. It almost looks like, so here it is, My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. I think this comes out in August, but I'll put the exact release date here. But Stephen Graham Jones, if that name sounds familiar, he wrote The Only Good Indians, and this is about Jade Daniels, and she is an angry half-Indian outcast with an abusive father, an absent mother, and an entire town that wants nothing to do with her. She lives in her own world, a world in which protection comes from an unusual source, horror movies. Especially the ones where a mass killer seeks revenge on a world that wronged them. But when blood actually starts to spill in the waters of Indian Lake, which I get the impression from what I've seen online that this is a lake or area that is slowly being gentrified and kind of taken over. She pulls us into a dizzying, encyclopedic mind of blood and mass murderers and predicts exactly how the plot will unfold. So this sounds just like a horror lover's dream, and it's almost packaged a little bit like a VHS tape. Very cool. And so here is the book. I'm so excited. I am gonna wait to read this for maybe a month or two, just so it's a little bit closer to the release date, which is gonna be hard because this is probably my most anticipated book for the year, even above and beyond You Love Me, if I'm honest. Oh wow, and we've got a little chainsaw bookmark. I'm not sure, my camera's terrible and doesn't have autofocus, but it's got a little chainsaw pin with a heart in the middle. But it has a little fake newspaper for the area, and it says the Proof Rock Standard, Friday, June 13th, 2020. Proof Rock welcomes Terra Nova and its founders. This is going to be so fun to read. And then what is this? Ooh, it looks like it might be a little keychain, and it says My Heart is a Chainsaw on one side, and the other side says Camp Blood, Proof Rock, Idaho, number 6. So maybe this is a room or a camp where murder takes place. We'll see, but that is really fun. And then finally, it looks like this is a postcard. There are 2 in here. Wow. So like 1965 Never Stopped Happening, Proof Rock, Idaho with a picture, and then Terra Nova, The New Frontier, with some very expensive but very boring looking McMansions, which I'm sure is the intent. I'm so excited for that book, and I know a lot of you guys are. I just never received stuff like that, so it's really, really exciting. Okay, and next, some of the books I'm going to be talking about I don't have as physical books, but I have as audiobooks on Google Play, and this first one, whoops. The first one I picked up is The Project, and I already have a review of this, but I thought I'd mention it because it is, you know, a book I picked up since I filmed my last haul. This is the same author who wrote Sadie, which was one of my favorite thrillers of all time, especially that's come out in the past few years. And you can watch my video on The Project. Unfortunately, I did not despise it, but it certainly is not a new favorite, but it has to do with a cult. It's depressing. You can just go ahead and watch my review, it has no spoilers. And then is another book that I also finished really recently, but I don't know if I'm going to post a full review, but that is The Panic Years by Nell Frizzell. And I am 29 years old and single. For most of my 20s, I was putting work first, as you guys know, and just moving kind of constantly for my job. And now I'm suddenly in the stage where I really am having to think about when and do I want to be in a long-term relationship? Do I want to have kids? And normally I wouldn't be as open about things like that on this channel, but one thing that I really appreciated about this book, which I should pause and actually explain what it's about, but it's nonfiction and gets at the idea that all of this pressure for whether or not we should have kids, can we have kids, is all really put on women. For example, the idea that your eggs dry up when you're 35, but men are, you know, virile forever, which she completely debunks in this book. You know, we have all of this pressure, and then we also are kind of taught to not really talk openly about it. So I thought this was just the perfect time to read something like this. It talks about her journey, and I also learned a lot of the things that you shouldn't ask people who are trying to have kids or thinking about having kids, or people who want to live child-free. It just was really, really eye-opening in a lot of ways. So again, I learned a lot reading this. And whether or not you want to have kids, if you don't want to have kids, if you're child-free, I'd highly recommend. The next book I got was Kristin Hannah's The Four Winds. And I'm sure, as many of you know, Kristin Hannah is the author of, what was it called? The Nightingale, and then Alone. I absolutely loved The Nightingale. Can't wait to see it made into a movie. I think it's, what are their two names? They're blonde. Dakota and Elle Fanning. They're gonna play the sisters, assuming it's still being filmed. I'm guessing it was probably paused because of the pandemic. I think her books, unfortunately, have a tendency to lean very melodramatic, especially towards the last chapter, but I still really adore them and can't wait to read this. And this takes place in Texas in 1934. Millions are out of work and a drought has broken the Great Plains of the... And so a woman moves from Texas to, I think it's California. I've seen a little bit of mixed reviews on this so far, so I'm really intrigued by it. And I don't actually know very much about the Great Depression. I've heard from people who have read this that whether or not you enjoy it, you learn a lot about the Great Depression, so I'm personally really, really interested in this. My mom's also a huge Kristin Hannah fan, so I'm sure she's gonna be excited that I have that. Okay, and the last audiobook, I think, yeah, this is the last audiobook that I'm gonna show, is one that I'm listening to right now. I'm about an hour in, and I'm loving it so much. I also mentioned this book in my books I'm excited to read in 2021, and that is The Lost Village by Camilla Sten. And they say that this is sort of the Blair Witch Project meets Midsummer, which I love both those things. And it's about a young woman named, and it's about a woman named Alice whose grandmother went missing in a little Swedish town in the middle of the woods in 1959. Well, no, her grandmother didn't go missing. Her grandmother had left the town previously. Her grandmother's little sister went missing, along with all of its other 900 residents, except for one baby who was left behind alive. And so Alice has gone to film school, and she goes out with a few of her, you know, friends, to, of course, stay there for a week, film, make a documentary about this little town in Sweden. And it is so much fun so far. So it is just exactly what I read, and it's just exactly what I need right now. I also wanted to mention, this is one reason I just need a new camera, because I feel like most booktubers, you see more than just their like head so close to the screen, but mine can't back out any further, and if I move away, I can't focus. You know what, none of that matters, it's boring. But anyway, I got a bunch of horror t-shirts recently, and one is this Headless Horseman shirt. I've got it tucked into a skirt here. But this section is not sponsored. You all know I've never done a sponsored video. Not that I have anything against them or people who do. I've just never come across you know, something sponsored that I felt like it's something I want to promote. So this is not sponsored, but if you are interested in getting any of these creepy t-shirts, they are from a site called Boardwalk, and if you use my code ChapterStackss, you get 20% off. It is an affiliate link, so again, I only do this if it's something I really, really like. But I got this one, and then actually let me go grab the other shirt. The other one I picked up is this really funny one. And I don't know if it'll focus, but it says, "Is your family prepared for the zombie apocalypse?" And it just lists how to be prepared. And this one's more of a fitted crew neck. What I like about these is the fact that they're a little bit more, in my opinion, especially this one, a little bit more subtle. I love horror, I love Halloween, but I don't necessarily want to wear over-the-top Halloween t-shirts year-round, and I like the fact that these are a little subtle. So again, of course you don't have to, but if you're interested in them and if you want a little bit of a discount, you can use the code ChapterStackss. Okay, next I've got some physical books in front of me, and this next one is Gingerbread by Helen Oyeyemi. And if that sounds familiar, I have not read her most popular book, which is White is for Witching, and this is slightly inspired, I'm sure you can guess by the name, Gingerbread by Hansel and Gretel. And it says, Perdita Lee may appear to be your average British schoolgirl. Harriet Lee may seem to just be a working mother trying to penetrate the school social hierarchy, but there are signs that might not be as normal as they think they are. And it sounds, I don't actually even know if this is necessarily straight up horror or not, but it says, when teenage Perdita sets out to find her mother's long-lost childhood friend Gretel, a true lover of the Lee's family gingerbread, her search prompts a new telling of Harriet's story. So really, really interesting, and can't wait to read this one. Then this next one is very random, but I picked it up because it was on sale but is Find Her by Lisa Gardner. I must have read a book by Lisa Gardner before, but I can't recall, but she's, as I'm sure many of you have heard of her, a very popular thriller author. I did notice, unfortunately, after I picked this up, that this is number 8 in a series. So if any of you have read this series, can I just jump in and read this one? Do I actually have to read the other ones or not? But this says, 7 years ago, carefree college student Flora Dane was kidnapped while on spring break. For 472 days, Flora learned just how much one person can endure. Miraculously alive after her ordeal, Flora has spent the past 5 years reacquainting herself with the rhythms of normal life, working with her FBI victim advocate Samuel Kepnes. And I stopped kind of reading the summary there because I don't want to know what happens next, whether or not the person starts hunting her again, whether she's kidnapped again, no idea. But again, if you guys have read these, if you could let me know, can I dive straight in, or do I need to read the other 7 books first? Because if I do, probably won't read this. Okay, the next book I have on my Kindle. And where did this go? And I picked this up because I reviewed, what was it called? What was one of the last books I read? Oh, The Silent Patient. So I read The Silent Patient, as many of you know. Spoiler for review is, gonna be spoiler for review is on my channel, one of my most recent videos. I read it because it was the #1 thriller of 2019, and so I thought, oh, I should also read the #1 thriller of 2020. So it's probably gonna be too far away to see there, but I'm reading the guest list right now, which was the #1 thriller according to Goodreads for 2020. I had a lot of comments saying I did not enjoy The Silent Patient. You can go watch that review. So I came into the guest list with pretty low expectations, but I'm actually finding it so fun so far. It's sort of a play on And Then There Were None, and it takes place on a remote island in Ireland where a couple is having their wedding, and it's told from multiple different perspectives of the couple, their wedding party, the guests, the staff. And I'm about 23% of the way in, and all I know is that someone has died. We don't know who yet, and it's kind of told forward and backward in time, and it's just really fun. Anything set on a remote island in Ireland, I think I'm going to enjoy. And then finally, 2 more physical copies of books. These are going to sound familiar because I've mentioned them in videos where I was talking about books that I want to read. So next is Picnic in the Ruins by Todd Robert Petersen. And this is about an anthropologist named Sophia Shepherd who is researching the impact of tourism on cultural sites in a remote national monument on the Utah-Arizona border when she crosses paths with 2 small-time criminals. The Ashton brothers were hired to steal maps from a collector of Native American artifacts, but they come across her, and it says what begins as a madcap caper across the RV-strewn vacation lanes of southern Utah becomes a meditation on mythology, authenticity, and the ethics of preservation, and one nagging question: who owns the past? And it was really that little last paragraph and line that sealed me on really wanting to pick up this book. And then finally is a book I've mentioned in a couple videos that I really want to read, and now I own it, and it's very quick, so hopefully I'll read this soon, and that is Follow Me to the Ground by Susan Rainsford. What does this cover remind anyone else of? Midsummer, definitely. But I think this sort of takes place in a little bit of a fantasy world. I'm not sure. Otherworldly young woman has the ability to, I think, bring people back from the dead, but I think it's sort of a gruesome process where she has to break apart their bodies with her father. I think there's a little bit of maybe forbidden romance in this. So I am so excited about a lot of these books I've been reading. As I mentioned, just haven't been in the mood really to film much recently, and I also read a bunch, at least for me, at the start of the year, so I was filming more, and I haven't read as much lately. But considering I'm reading The Guest List, The Last Village, and really enjoying those, I think I'll have some more reviews coming up soon. I also think, and this is a bit random, but if you follow me on Twitter, you'll know this, my next video might be more of a psychology video on the psychology of dating as a millennial and just what it's like right now. So if you've got thoughts on that, please feel free to share down below, and I might show some of those comments in that next video. But again, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please let me know, are there any books here especially that you want me to read? And I don't think I mentioned this in the video, but if you were interested in any of these creepier shirts, I'll have a link to the website down below. So again, hope you guys are doing well and staying safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.